screen with the budget speech, which is happening right now. So with this color jacket, you might have been thinking I'd be giving the alternative budget speech, but I won't be doing that today. And I want to thank David for that presentation and the need for support for housing and for affordable and supported housing. And yes, government should get back into that. And so that has been on the Liberal Party platform the last 2 elections. So I just want to say it's a huge pleasure to be here today. And who here in the room is from outside of British Columbia and has come here for this conference? So quite a few hands. So welcome to the wonderful Thompson-Okanagan region and to this facility, which is my first time here and an amazing illustration of what a strong partnership can do. I've had the chance now to have several meetings since I got here from Vancouver, and this is really an iconic place to be. So it's great to meet you here. As well as being a Liberal Member of Parliament and the critic or advocate for small business and tourism and the other parts of my portfolio, I also chair the Northern and Western Caucus, which means the Liberal Members of Parliament and Senators from west of Ontario. And I chair an economic caucus that meets every 2 weeks in Ottawa to talk about the issues of the day and what do we need to do as federal government to address some of those issues. And of course we know that a big one is jobs. Just chatting with some of the conference members about the situation in Canada, you may know that what we really have is a jobless recovery. And our unemployment rates are still a couple of % higher than they were in the mid-2000s. There's still 270,000 people more unemployed today than were unemployed in 2006. And there's still hundreds of thousands fewer long-term or permanent jobs than there were before the recession. So while things are coming back, we're a bit in the doldrums when it comes to jobs. And the United States, in fact, is increasing its number of new jobs at twice the rate of Canada. So we have work to do. And you in the room are a key part of doing that. So what I really am going to be talking about a bit is that what you do matters. What you do really matters. That it's not easy. There's not a lot of help. You need government to not be in your face, but you want government in your corner. So it's up to you, it's up to us. And then lastly, it is totally worth it though, achieving what some of you in the room, and I know there's a lot of award winners in this room. So the achievement is very satisfying and it's very, very much worth it. So I'm in the Thompson-Okanagan area for a 3-day tour to listen really and to hear from people in the area, in Soyuz, Penticton, Kelowna, Vernon, and Kamloops, and to meet with small business and tourism and municipal government representatives and to hear from them. Because as a federal member of Parliament who lives half the time in Vancouver and half the time in Ottawa, it's not enough to have just a perspective from the urban situation. I want to know what's happening in other parts of the country and in other parts of British Columbia. So that's why I'm here to hear from you. I wanted to just also pass on the best wishes from the Liberal critic or advocate for First Nations and Aboriginal Affairs, and that's Dr. Caroline Bennett. And she was here at Spirit Lodge not that long ago, meeting with Chief Louis, and just wanted me to pass on her best wishes for your conference and to all of the attendees. And speaking of conference, I have to say that this is an amazing success of a conference. I know that you've exceeded your targets for attendees, exceeded targets for people coming from outside of British Columbia. And clearly with how full the room is and how long the lineup was for lunch, You've done a great job. So I do want to congratulate Keith, Chris, and Glenn, who are the organizers and have done a fabulous job with this. And 1,500 people watching online. So to those of you who are online or who are tweeting about the conference and connecting your other friends with what's going on, welcome and congratulations for your interest in participating. So that, just to confirm how important I think the tourism opportunity is for Aboriginal communities right across the country. It's an economic development generator, and we know that that some communities' jobs and economic development is a key need and a key positive when it happens. So tourism is excellent for that. It's a way to preserve and revitalize cultural traditions. We know that just in general, when you learn something, then by sharing it or teaching it, it takes it to another level of depth. And so that's a positive for the cultural traditions of Aboriginal peoples. It's sustainable. We have a lot of economic possibilities that are risky or are not sustainable in the long run. And I would put the Enbridge pipeline, the Northern Gateway pipeline, in that category, because I personally am against having oil tanker traffic in the waters around Haida Gwaii. So 3 days ago, I was at a rally that was co-organized by the Helsik and other First Nations in Vancouver on a rainy Monday, and it was just packed. The energy was electric, and we had speaker after speaker that got the crowd motivated and committed to pass that message on. And later that day, I was at the Helsik's event at the Aboriginal Friendship Centre down on Hastings Street in Vancouver, where I spoke to the group. And I have to tell you that the Aboriginal people that are, so you may not all be against that project, and so I respect that. But for those of you that don't support having oil tanker traffic on the coast around Haida Gwaii, we need you to know that your brothers and sisters in the coastal Aboriginal communities need your help. This is going to be a big fight. And for British Columbians, I think it's been pretty clear that the benefits go elsewhere and the risks all reside with British Columbia and British Columbian communities, and especially First Nations communities on the coast, who have tourism as an important part of what they do. Not to mention the cultural importance of having a coast that is not covered with an oil slick and the kind of dreadful tragedy we saw with the Exxon Valdez. 23rd anniversary of the Exxon Valdez just a few days ago. We can't let that happen in British Columbia. So I appreciated that round of applause when I started talking about this. But that's not what I'm here to speak about principally. It is an important tourism generator, however. On the coast, there are 45,000 jobs in tourism and fisheries. And a major oil slick at the wrong time, a big oil spill at the wrong time of the year could cost a lot of those jobs, many of which are First Nations jobs. So we're going to continue to see this issue, and it's going to be, I'm confident in the success of the British Columbians that are committed to sustainability. Now, tourism is a sustainable industry, and so that's another reason why it's an important one to support. So what you are doing matters, creates those jobs, supports your culture, is sustainable. And BC, where we have more than 200 First Nations, there is a lot to offer because people are interested, and international tourists are very interested in First Nations culture. It is something very special about Canada, and I think we know that, I think David was just talking about Australia and New Zealand and the Aboriginal art there. there's Australia and New Zealand do a lot better job of connecting with the international tourism community about their First Nations than we do here in Canada. So we have a long way to go and a lot to do to have what you offer be top of mind to potential tourism operators from outside of Canada. But there's huge opportunities, people, the places, the products that you can offer. I mean, we know that British Columbia in this area is exceptional, but those of you from outside of British Columbia have your special places, special people, and special products to offer as well. In chatting last night with Glenn, I was asking, what are the iconic experiences in the Thompson Okanagan? What are the top 10? And he didn't have much trouble listing them off. I want to add, and I can't remember, Glenn, actually, whether you had mentioned Grasslands National Park. So I couldn't remember it, and Grasslands National Park is under research right now. It's not a national park yet, but it would be a fabulous, fabulous magnet for tourists into this whole area, and I think it would be a natural for Aboriginal tourism related to that park. I mean, in addition to the environmental aspects of the grasslands that are so special, and I know that the South Okanagan Similkameen Conservation Partnership has been a real lead in this area in showing that working together with nonprofits, with businesses, with different levels of government is a way to actually get difficult and complex things done. So this is an area that shows the way on partnerships. And Grasslands National Park, or in the research stage, you should know this, that recently the provincial government has put a stop to their participation, which means that the federal department is going to stop, it's going to down tools on that initiative. So if you think that having a Grasslands National Park will be good for tourism and the communities in this area, I encourage you to speak with the mayor of Osoyoos, Stu Wells, and add your voice in support. Let your municipal representatives and federal representatives and provincial representatives know that you think that research should continue to address the pros and cons, and to make sure that if there is a park, it's going to be a win-win all around, which I believe it will be. And just an aside on that, when I was the Environment Minister for British Columbia, I was the one that presented to the provincial cabinet the Federal Parks Canada's briefing on this potential park, and persuaded our cabinet to support going into study phase on the initiative. So I was sad to hear that it's blocked right now, but I think that's the kind of temporary hurdle that businesses are used to, and we know that we just need to be innovative and work together in partnership, and we eventually we succeed. So Aboriginal tourism, what you do matters. It's not easy. Nobody's doing much for you, so it's up to you. But when you succeed, it's worth it. That's, I think, my key message here. Chief Louis and the group that have Chris, others, Glenn, those of you that have created this spectacular and iconic experience here at Spirit Ridge know that in your bones that it's not easy, and that you just have to continue to grapple with the barriers that come in your way and work together, and it's worth it. So in terms of Aboriginal tourism in BC, the opportunities are enormous, and actually it is flowering. And I have a few statistics here that there are 200 Aboriginal tourism businesses in BC. Almost 4 million people experienced the joy of participating in Aboriginal tourism. Well, I did today too, and I went to some of these the kiosks, and And I'm going home with some gifts for my friends from the Aboriginal artisans and award winners here in the room. But there's almost double the number in 2010 from what there was in 2006 in terms of tourists that experienced Aboriginal cultural tourism. That's huge, doubling in 5 years. I wish my portfolio was doing something like that. So an estimated 2,300 full-time jobs generated by Aboriginal businesses in British Columbia, and that's a third up in 5 years. So there's momentum, it's moving. And 10% of US visitors to Canada took part in Aboriginal-related experiences. So there's huge opportunities. Canada doesn't do a very good job of bringing people. Canada as a country, through our Canadian Tourism Commission, does not do a very good job of bringing people here to experience Aboriginal tourism. The awareness of Aboriginal tourism is low from our international visitors, so that's an opportunity. But you know, the international tourists are interested. So 85% of prospective visitors to Canada from France, for example, said they would be very interested in participating in Canadian Aboriginal cultural experiences, celebrations, and tourism attractions. In Germany, that number was 72%. So the interest is there, the awareness is lagging. In other words, and nobody's going to do it for us, it's up to us, right? So the research that CTC has done shows that Aboriginal tourism rarely comes to mind when thinking of Canada. So people think of Niagara Falls, they think of Whistler, they think of the prairies, the Rockies, the lakes, they think of the places. So that's a challenge, that's tough. Another thing that may have been mentioned in one of the workshops, I was surprised, that the research shows that there's a concern that tourist visits may be somehow unwanted by Aboriginal peoples. So people from outside Canada, because they rarely see ads or promotions for Canadian Aboriginal tourism and products, when they do see ads, they wonder if somebody is pushing it against really the will of Aboriginal people. And given Europeans' history in Canada, hundreds and hundreds of years ago, there is a sense that Canadian Aboriginal people might not want tourists to visit. So we've got not only lack of awareness, we have misinformation. So what do you do? And amongst the people and amongst you in the room, I'm sure there are individual operators, there's also associations, there's business development people, so there's the whole range. What do you do about that? I think we're back to partnership. So it's about working together. And as Stu said, His Worship, the Honourable Wells said in our meeting, partnership with a plan. And I know that you're doing that in the Thompson Okanagan region. And so in your region, if you're not from this region, that working together at different levels of government with the business society, with the businesses and tourism associations, and coming up with a strategy and having a stronger voice to the Canadian Tourism Commission is very important. Put it on their radar that they need to start marketing this aspect of the Canadian experience internationally. I'm not sure if you're aware that Canada is the #1 priority destination for international tourists in terms of the brand recognition. They know about Canada, they want to come here, but we're only 15th in terms of actual visits. So we're doing some things that are not working in terms of actually bringing people here in general. So there's some barriers, and that's back to my theme of what you do really matters, but it's hard. Governments are not doing it for you. And Canadian Tourism Commission, the budget has been going down. Canada's tourism strategy The recent strategy at the national level just has, I think, very little for Aboriginal people. There's a few, they've essentially turned it over to Aboriginal Affairs and Northern Development. I don't recall that they have really a history in that ministry of supporting tourism. So, but suddenly that's who you're being asked to count on for any help federally. They, in the strategy, have a few comments that relate to Aboriginal tourism. One of them is that with Parks Canada, there will be a pilot project to establish at least 5 Aboriginal cultural tourism businesses in or near Canada's national parks and historic sites. Well, that sounds good, but 5 across the country? So that's the scale of ambition that we're seeing at the federal government level from tourism strategy. So it's back to my theme of what you do really matters, but it's up to you because you're not going to get a lot of help. I spent 25 years building a small business, so I know just how hard that is. I mean, I know how many nights I went to bed still thinking about the business problems that I'd be dealing with tomorrow, and how many weekends my husband and I spent talking about that challenge with the bank or with our market or with our employees over dinner, throughout the weekend. So you live and breathe it. It's hard. And those of you that are supporting the businesses know that it's not a cakewalk also. What about the federal budget? Is there anything in it that is going to help? And I have bad news for you. I mean, the good news is that government's not going to be in your face. But the bad news is they're not really in your corner either in this budget, unfortunately. It is not a jobs-oriented budget. There is some money for small businesses, but it is the money for small businesses will sound good, but it's actually only 1/3 of the extra costs that the EI premium increases will be loading onto business. So unfortunately, we've got payroll taxes going up at the very time we need a job-based recovery, and so what we have is a jobless recovery. But you're in the room because you're smart, you're committed, dedicated people, you understand the importance of what you do, you understand the importance of tourism for communities, for the jobs in those communities, for the families in those communities, for sustainability, for culture, for connecting with people, for the importance for Canada of what you do. So I've got a lot of confidence in this group and in the tourism community and the Aboriginal tourism community in particular. And I want you to know that what you do matters. It's going to be tough and it's up to you, but it's really, really worth it. So if there's any way that I can help, if there's anything that you need me to take forward in Ottawa as the Liberal advocate for tourism, I'll do that. So thanks very much. Thanks for welcoming me to your conference. It's been a real pleasure to be here, and enjoy the rest of the day.